Adjusting sights for the 75 caliber belted ball Brunswick Rifle. William Hovey Smith, 2014. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading. Here we do the initial sight adjustments on our Brunswick Rifle.
This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman, and today we're going to adjust the sights on the Brunswick Rifle. For those just joining us, the Brunswick Rifle was the first percussion rifle issued in the British service, and it shot a 75 caliber belted ball that's indexed by 2 grooves in the barrel. Now, there were several problems with this projectile, one of which, of course, it's huge, and it is a round ball. And round balls shed velocity very, very rapidly as soon as they lose the bore. They have tremendous close range impact, but long range capabilities, well, not so much. It was found with the Brown Bess musket that if you really wanted to slay large numbers of enemy forces, you needed to wait until the guys got to about 30 yards. Bully! And that's when you fired your volleys. If you fired at 100 yards, you were just wasting lead and only would have a very small percentage of hits, even with ranks of troops. Well, the Brunswick Rifle was designed to have many improvements over the Brown Bess musket. For one thing, the Brunswick Rifle actually had rear sights. And not only that, it had a flip-up leaf here, which enabled you to have sights to shoot to different points of aim. Now, we've had a chance to shoot an original rifle here before, as well as this one that I rebuilt from parts and have completely restocked it. And this is going to be a hunting gun, and I'm going to use it to take deer between 50 and 100 yards most likely, and perhaps even elk. But when we shot this gun before, what we found was that our hits were, well, at least 2 feet high, and perhaps off to the left of the target. So we're going to have to bring this sight down to adjust the point of aim. I have the gun that we're going to work on mounted in a vise. Now, when you put a gun in a vise, you don't cinch it up to 1 inch of its life. All you'd want to do is just stabilize it whilst you work on it. And we have our grinding tool here and some files and also some eye protection. When you're working on this stuff at close range, you want to make sure that you have something over your eyes to protect them, because fragments of steel and grinding compound are going to start flying in a little bit. Now, we'll focus a little more closely on the sight so that you can see the details, but ultimately what we're going to wind up with something that looks about like this. I'm going to make the first cuts straight down in a series, and then we'll start removing some metal horizontally. We now have our sights diced up in about 3 cuts. There's 1 cut here, 1 in the middle, and 1 on this side. And so now we're going to take the tool and put it horizontally and actually start cutting these blocks off. This is a more efficient way to move metal than trying to grind flat all the way across. So we're going to start cutting here, here, and here, and hopefully we'll come up with a more or less flat surface that we can then work down with a file and ultimately put some sighting grooves in. We have to this stage removed 2 blocks of metal, and what we're going to do while the batteries are recharging are take files and dress both sides of the sight down to a smoother finish and start filing on this flat a little bit. So hopefully we'll get it ultimately so that these Brunswick balls will actually shoot to something like the point of aim at 50 yards. We're getting the sight block cut down with a file, and we've removed all traces of the original sight. We're down that far, but we're still a fair ways to go before we get near where we want to be. But we're definitely making progress. And so when you're filing the sight like this, you want to place the file down on your flat like this, and then go smoothly back and forth. And with this file, yeah, we're actually moving pretty good metal. We can now actually start cutting the notch for the sight and going out and do our first shooting to see where we are. I think we've reduced the height of the sight enough that we should be probably still high, but on paper at 50 yards. At about this stage, you do want to test shoot just to make sure you're not getting overly zealous here. On our first shot outdoors, the patches came through okay, but we're still hitting quite high. I put up a large piece of cardboard behind the target, and we're hitting directly above the point of aim, but still about 2 feet high. So we're going to take this sight down as low as we can cut it, but if I use these iron sights, I'm going to have to shoot at the belly of the deer to hit him in the chest cavity, or raise the front sight, which I'm loath to do. What this gun is telling me is apparently it wants to be a 100-yard shooter. So okay, we've got that sight taken down for about as low as we can get it without running into the hinge that holds up the actual long-range sight that this rifle is equipped with. So we don't want to destroy that. And we've cut a U-shaped notch, as you can see, and so now we're going to try with it. And just to give you an idea, yeah, that's its long range sight. I don't know what range that this was sighted in for, but they had great expectations for this rifle, and I think somewhat unrealistic ones. But we have done our work on the sights here about as far as we can go. This is as low as I can cut them, and we have finally got a hit on our target at 50 yards. Yeah, right up here at the edge of the paper. Oh, now that's still 12 inches from the bullseye. All right, but at least we're making progress. Now, what about sights that you can actually use on this gun? Well, I am going to cast up some more balls, and we're going at some later date to actual shooting at 100 yards, which might require me repositioning this sight left and right to get a zero. Right now, as you can see, apparently the last hits were to the right. So that would be, well, feet off the target at 100 yards. So we'll have to do something to correct that, and will. On this raw metal on the sight, I'm going to use this gun glue and actually put a little protection on it before we continue much further. And right now we're going to clean the gun. The alternatives are to have it drilled and put an iron sight base with fiber optic sights on both front and rear. You could do that. You could also have it drilled and put a Weaver base on it and put a scope on it. If you do, I suggest you use a long eye relief scope because you have to cheek hard on this stock. And yeah, now this gun is punishing. I would rank it about a normal weight 458 lot, an African big game cartridge. Yes, it generates that degree of recoil. You can only imagine what this load would produce. Now this is a 69 caliber hollow base mini ball. Whoa, with a rifle to musket. this thing is 75 caliber. It would use an even heavier bullet. Where? And there were such things. God knows why the troops hated this gun. It just beat them to death. And in some cases of these Nepalese rifles, weren't any more accurate than their smoothbore muskets. Okay. So we're going to continue to work with the gun.
And here you see the gun loaded and shot.
So now we proceed to load. And we're going to do a change up here and throw a full powder charge of 85 grains of double FG black powder. As before, a 11 gauge card wad goes down. Powder crunched a little bit. We're going to be using two thicknesses of patching. We have our pillow ticking patching, which we have used before, and a lighter canvas patch, both of which have been lubricated. So we put the heavier patch down, the lighter patch material over it, take our ball, index it in the grooves. Now this requires a little more force to seat this time, so we're about right so far as patching material. Now that's as it should be. That's about the right amount of friction we should be having. Okay? You cut through all this patch material, and yeah, it takes a sharp knife. Okay, you have a short starter. Goes down easily. Ramrod. That's good. There's a little rough spot in the bore. Okay, all the way down. We'll give it just a tap. Okay. So now we're going to prime. And I can actually see a little grain of powder sticking up there in the nipple, so we know we got it all the way up. Okay. And we're going to be ready to shoot.
These old rifles may be unsafe. Have them checked out before you use them.
Bang. And for now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe, goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.
Among my prize-winning books are Extreme Muzzleloading, Backyard Deer Hunting, Crossbow Hunting, and Practical Bow Fishing, available as softcover and e-books. I have an 8-book e-book series on muzzleloaders coming out for 2013-14, including building or restoring your own muzzleloader that will feature this gun. For more information on my books, blogs, and videos, go to my website at www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.